Welcome to the Blogger Genius Podcast, brought to you by Milo Tree. Here's your host, Jillian Leslie.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the Blogger Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Jillian Leslie. I'm founder of Catch My Party, the Milo Tree pop-up app. I am a business coach and a business translator. I'm feeling a sense of new beginnings with the pandemic winding down here in the United States. I think we have all been changed by this experience. And I feel like now we can lean into our businesses in new ways. I put together a cheat sheet that I think would be really useful. And I call it the 5 secrets successful bloggers already know. Now, we work with a lot of successful bloggers. We are successful bloggers. And I took some time to really dissect what is it? What are the commonalities I see that all of these bloggers do? And so I want you to grab this at milotree.com/secrets. And you can have this and download it and use it as a guide, because as bloggers, we have so much on our plates. It's nice to know that these are the directions you want to focus on, because these are the ones that are really going to pay off. So again, head to milotree.com/secrets and get it today. For today's episode, I have my very good friend, Laura Fuentes, back on the show. She's been a previous guest. She is a food blogger. She has a huge YouTube channel. She is the founder of the meal planning company called Momables. And we are talking about pivoting. This is what I'm feeling in my community. Now that we're at this new stage, people are starting to rethink their businesses. And this is how Laura has been rethinking her business. We ended up recording for a very long time, so therefore I'm breaking this into 2 episodes, and I think it is really inspiring, really good. So without further delay, here is part 1 of my interview with Laura Fuentes. Laura, welcome back to the show.
I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Well, you reached out to me because you listened to one of the other episodes, and we just started texting, and we've been friends for a long time. And you started talking about your new areas of exploration in your business. And I was like, Laura, I need to have you back on the show.
You know, you and I always have great discussions about what we're doing and what we're working on and where we're going next. And I think you and I work a lot alike, that we're enjoying our ride of the things that are working, but we're always exploring the gifts that we have, how we can use them to continue to serve our audience. And I think that's where we always go, oh, you're working on this? Oh, this is so great. And we get excited for each other. And I'm just thrilled to be back and really dive deep, because you don't know all the things that you want to ask me. So I said, save those for the podcast.
Totally. Like, we started talking and I'm like, no, let's save this. And really, you and I have been at this a long time. And I think one thing where we are both very like-minded is this idea that things in the world are changing. We're changing. The overall environment is changing. And how do we make pivots in our businesses so that we can keep ourselves engaged, keep ourselves excited, follow what is working, because things are always shifting, to stay in it for the long term?
Yes. And honestly, that is something, to stay in it for the long term, are really key words, because I feel that through this almost a decade of growing my audience, my platforms, putting out content, people get they when they come to all of us are listening, all of you guys are listening, when they come to your blogs, your business, they find you through probably searching for a need that they have. And it's through that interaction with your content or your video or your emails that they begin to form an idea of who you are and what they see online, whether it's on social, right? And they begin to ask themselves, is this person in it for the long haul, right? Because is this a fly by night blog or book writer or a podcaster, whatever it is that your area of genius is. I really do believe that the people that genuinely connect with you at some point, they ask themselves, is this someone that's going to be able to help me in the long, do I connect with them with what they have? And their needs also change as they stay in your community for a long time. So not only is about us pivoting a little bit with what we offer, the content that we create, but it's also about discovering what our audience's tiny pivots what happens to them too, because it creates new needs, which means there are new opportunities for us to continue to serve them.
Absolutely. I think, for example, I've noticed this with certain bloggers who, let's say, end up with homeschooling their preschooler. Well, guess what? In a couple of years, their preschooler becomes a kindergartner and then an elementary school student and then whatever. And there is something about recognizing your life is changing and you don't just necessarily want to serve preschoolers, but will your audience go along with you and the new challenges that you're facing that you can then share with them? And that you still have the content for the preschooler or get them in at that stage and then they can grow with you. I was sharing this before. I believe the way to not have a midlife crisis is to, and this is as a business owner and as a person, is to always be willing to make micro adjustments so that you don't, I gave this example, that you don't wake up in 5 years and go, oh my God, my marriage is a mess. That you recognize that your marriage is changing, that your relationships with your kids are changing, that your business is changing. And if you are willing to do these little subtle shifts, see if your audience will go along with you with your business. See if your husband will go along with you as you start to change and evolve. Because that is the way to stay present, to stay engaged, and to not have things get boring. And so that you can continue to serve your audience, serve your husband, serve your kids,
build your business,
be
a great person, take care of yourself, right?
And I think that you, Laura, and I were very like-minded in that we're always growing.
Yes, and growth is painful and growth is difficult and challenging, but through that is, I feel that when your priorities are in the right place and your heart is the right place, you can actually push through to be more fulfilled, be happier, and really go from doing the daily, like my teenager calls it, to really thriving and enjoying your life, right? So, and I think we are all in this place the last year that we have to, I've heard this from many people in my community that there have been a lot of difficulties, through 2020 and 2021. And although a lot of people say like, oh, I just want to, I wish it never happened, forget it. But I also feel like it's been a really good opportunity to take a step back and assess and on what's working, both for me personally and in my business. I have to be honest, like when I would open up Instagram and I would see that all these people are home with their kids and they're doing activities and they're sharing things like, oh, I'm just really taking advantage of this time to build with my kids and like do all these things. And I cringe with envy, and because that's just literally, I was in sink or swim in survival mode for I think from like literally March until probably September, October. I almost like burned the candle on both ends, and I picked up, I exercised literally just to what I call clear the cobwebs, because I've felt this anxiety and stress over my business, my employees, like what I've built in my audience and the things that they were sharing with me. So for me, like quarantine was not like this amazing,
Right.
what do they call it? Like the great reset or something. I'm like, no, like I was navigating a storm. Okay. Just to keep my ship afloat, stay strong and grounded. So I actually endured where I'm still pivoting because of, I was like, okay, if I want to push the ship forward, what do I need to do so that I'm stronger both emotionally, physically, my mindset. Like, what is it that I need to do so that I can come to the other side unscathed?
I'm going to link to your earlier
Yeah.
podcast episode so people can hear your journey.
Mm-hmm.
But will you
Yeah.
share kind of how you built your business and
Mm-hmm.
now how you are doing these micro adjustments and shifting things and pivoting to move your business forward, to lead your audience on an extended journey, and what it is also for you personally. So start with where you were and where you are now moving.
Yeah. I've been on here and I've spoken with your audience, and they might have heard me before talk about email list building and growth. And I think we might have had a podcast on YouTube as well. And, or at least we talked about these things. So I have built an audience and a community mostly through email. While people, content is great and social media is amazing. But to me, I've always, for the last 10 years, I've focused and even talked on conferences. And, that's how I think how we connected about the power of building an email list.
Wait, I have to stop you for 1 second. You were the person who opened my eyes to the power of email. You were talking about email in ways I didn't understand. You were talking about segmenting your lists and what you do and all of these things, and I was blown away. So I just have to say, you were so early to seeing the power of email, and you were such a great teacher for me. So sorry, I had to just interject that.
Thank you. And I can come back another time and tell you where these things are going when it comes to email. But through email and, consistently sharing my content, sending out a newsletter the same time, every single week, having a plan for that content that's being shared. Really, I have gotten to know a lot of my audience over the years and what their needs are. And so I spend more time crafting emails and series of emails and funnels than I do on social media. Because to me, social is important to promote my content, but it's not the driver of a true relationship building at scale. I can't scale my time on social media, but I can scale my time on email. And so it's through that I've sort of built, Momables, like the food.
Okay, so wait, so share what Momables is so that people know.
So Momables is a meal planning company, but I really focus on, it's not about meal plans, it's through meal plans, how parents, moms can establish healthy eating habits for their life, for their families, right? I don't want to just solve your 1 week problem of, I don't know what to cook, or through a single recipe. What I want to do is, the impact that I know that I can create is to help you and motivate you to stick with those habits long term. And Momables is the food piece, right? Okay. Through meal plans, I have programs and picky eating programs and kind of whole 30 like for families. So that is really the strong food piece.
And you have a big YouTube channel where
I have a YouTube channel where I cook. I'm officially a YouTuber. I just got my plaque.
Nice.
So my 9-year-old is very excited for me. And then at the same time, I also have another site, which is laurafuentes.com, where that really is more, it's a lot of recipes, but it's about the lifestyle that comes with the pursuit of eating healthy. So at the forefront, people may find me through a recipe. My goal is for people to find me through a recipe, because that is almost like the lowest hanging fruit, the easiest way to attract people, because I don't have to change your mind about anything, right? And then through my recipes, they find out, if they opt into my list, but also the rest of the content on the site, that there is more to living a healthy lifestyle as a mom than food.
I feel like with Momables, the focus is, it's for moms, your audience is moms, but you're helping moms create a good experience for their families. And then as you have dug into your own health and your own journey, now you're saying, hey, moms, I want to speak to you directly about your own life, not just about your family's life, but let's put the focus on you, as you've done in your own journey, by saying, wait a second, here are the things that have kept me in the game. Here are the things I use to clear my brain, to stay healthy, to whatever. And then by doing that, I can serve my family. But the focus, because as women, and we talk about this, it's so much about give, that it's like, how do you stock? How do you take stock? How do you build yourself up as a woman?
Well, and not only that, it's just that there's only so much of ourselves we can give before we're exhausted. Okay. So, this is a perfect example of, I used to clean my own house on every Saturday, and I would spend like 5 hours, because I'm a little bit OCD when it comes to I don't just kind of surface wipe, and I would, so I'd spend for 5 hours. I would by the time I got to bed that Saturday night, I would be so beat. I also have a deformity in my back, and I have a lot of problems. So by the time I got to bed, I was like beat. And then to do it all over again on the next weekend. And one day I was like, you know what? If I could just pay somebody to clean my house for an hour or two, and then I could take back those 5 hours that I would deep clean and go all crazy, and my family can attest to this, I can now be present with them for 5 hours and do something that actually I enjoy more, and then just maintain my house throughout the week. So it's really about prioritizing. It's not about hiring a housekeeper, but it's about realizing that I am more important than the task at hand. And I don't have to do everything. Right? I can go work for 5 hours and make the money to pay for my housekeeper if I wanted to, right? But I don't enjoy cleaning all the time, and I don't enjoy being committed to keeping a clean house every single weekend, because weekends is when I can actually want to enjoy time with my kids. A lot of people feel they don't deserve the help, and I'm like, what? Right. No one builds, Rome was not built in a day, and it was not built by one person.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that is something that I've discovered from my community, is that as they came to laurafuentes.com for a recipe, I have a lot of content. And every time I shared a content on sleeping or the health benefits or something, or why is it that we do what we do, or that I do something, right? Working out is not going to look different after you have kids. So stop looking at a 20-year-old on Instagram for inspiration to work out. The shit jiggles different ways, So don't compare yourself to someone else that's just realistically unattainable, right? So I share all these things, and then women come to me and they're like, gosh, you're so right. Well, how do you do it without feeling guilty? And I'm like, because I am the most important person under this roof. To me, I am the most important person. If I can't take care of myself, how am I going to take care of the other people that and I know everyone that's listening, you're like, I know you have heard this before, but it is so true that if you are not in good enough health right now, or you're like, you know what, I'm totally healthy right now, I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm like, yes, but how are you going to be 20 years from now?
Absolutely.
Right? When you haven't taken care of yourself, your kids are out of the house, and now everything aches.
Hopefully you have downloaded my Blogger Secrets cheat sheet, or if not, you're going to do it at the end of this episode at milotree/secrets. I want to talk about the next step, which is building that strong foundation for your blog. I just launched my newest course, The Beginner's Guide to WordPress, How to Write Killer Blog Posts with Ease. This is not just for beginners. This is for anyone who wants to feel comfortable using WordPress, navigating all those crazy menus, understanding the Gutenberg editor, and knowing exactly what to blog about and how to optimize your posts so that your audience begs you for more. Please head to milotree.com/WordPress to learn more and sign up. And as a special bonus, I will personally review the blog post you write in the course. And now back to the show. I haven't really shared this, but I have MS, and thank God I'm fine right now and it's in remission. However, when I was diagnosed 8 years ago, my vision, my balance, everything was gone, and it was really scary, and I couldn't be there for my family. And I had this moment of realization that I had to put my health first as the only way I could be the mother I wanted to be and the wife I wanted to be. There was no other solution. And up until that point, I kind of took my health for granted. Like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I'll get to it later. And I would burn the candle at both ends. And to all of a sudden say, whoa, in order to serve, I have to focus on me first, and I have to prioritize sleep. It's like the basics: sleep, exercise, diet, stress. And I take drugs and stuff for this. But really, it's not that hard. However, it is really hard.
Okay, it's really simple, but the simple things are often the most difficult to implement, right?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
What I feel that it's sort of my, I guess, gift, but in a way, my focus is to find a way to communicate what we just said to women without them going through a health crisis, because it's unfortunate that we experience this realization when something happens to us and we're like, oh my, why? Because it's out of being afraid that what's going to happen. I mean, like your husband stepped up, and like most of us, we'd find somebody to step up and help us if when this happens. But the thing is that shouldn't have to happen in our life.
Absolutely.
In order for us to realize that, hey, if I just take 20 minutes a day to go on a walk, to listen to an audiobook while I walk, or
my podcast,
or music, or basically, if I feed my mind with positive things while I'm moving my body, then that's two things that I can take off. Like I tell women, I focus on 4 things: sleep, you just named it; movement, which would be exercise or fitness; and then of course mindset, because stress. I don't want to say stress, because there are people that are not stressed, but they are not confident with themselves, or they're not being kind to themselves with the things that they think about themselves. And so I focus on mindset. And then of course there's the food piece, where it's how we nourish our body. Does that mean you always have to eat organic? No. It just means that you have to have a plan for your food, and because a plan for your food is a plan for your health. And then stick with it as much as you can, and still live a little, enjoy a piece of cake, with no guilt, right? So it's so these are all the things that I've found myself talking to my audience about for the last 10 years, and up until recently, I'm like, why am I only focused, as a business, on the food piece, when I really connect with my audience at a whole person piece, right? And I really speak with moms because I am a mom. And a lot of people are, I speak with moms, or I serve women, but I serve moms, because I feel like, I feel for my audience, those are the ones that I know that I can better serve and be most encouraging with their, don't lose yourself through motherhood. How do you are still the same person that you were excited to be and live at 22. You're still that person. You're actually a richer person. You have a family, you have kids. Richness is not just in money, it's in health and happiness. And if there are areas that you're not rich, it's kind of like if you can't meet if your paycheck doesn't last the whole month, then it's time to revisit your budget. If your richness doesn't feel full when it comes to your life, your relationships, your physical appearance, your health, then it's sort of like budgeting time. It's time to take a an observation or an assessment of where are we and where can we start.
I love that. Now, we've talked about this. You are an Enneagram 8, which is the boss. I'm an Enneagram 6. I do think that 6s and 8s get along really well. But what I love about you, and we talked about this in the earlier interviews I did with you, you have a frankness about you that I find really refreshing because you have a heart of gold. So your heart is so pure, but your delivery is very straightforward. You're not going to beat around the bush. And go back, I do recommend people go back and listen to our earlier episodes because you talked about how like you don't care what people think about you. And I believe you 100%. I find that so refreshing. And I find when you are delivering these messages to moms about health that you do it with frankness and love. And I feel you on the same journey.
Thank you. Because I feel that I do feel a responsibility to remind moms and my audience that they are loved. We spend so much time loving others, right? Pouring our hearts and our love to our children, to our spouse, to our parents, to even our love for our jobs. And I say love because it is it's more of an energy, but we spend so much time pouring ourselves onto others that we sometimes feel like our own tank is empty, or no one is telling us, hey, did someone tell you that you are loved today? Like, and in this year, we haven't hugged as many people, the whole handshaking. Like this year, a lot of people have struggled because it's not just about social distancing. I know that my audience feels emotionally distant. And so I have taken it onto myself to remind them, you are loved just as you are, your faults and all. And that's why I share my struggles, not in I can't stand when people like share their pregnancy scars and their stretch marks in a look at me, we all have them degrading way. Like, no, like you got scars, you got stretch marks. That's just part of life. Like it's very frank. Like you got them, you don't, like I have a severe deformity in my back and there are things that you just cannot change. So I am going to work with what I have and move forward with that, right? At least I just want to have all the information in front of me.
So let's talk about then the act of you pivoting. So you are growing, you're changing, your family is getting older. You recognize that you need to invest in you. And through your Instagram, I can see you continually investing in your health and your well-being and being really honest about your struggles. And then how have you gone from focusing on momables and food to enlarging your vision in your business?
So I went straight to my audience and said, hey, I have this idea. I'm going to very paraphrase and summarize. I have this idea. I know you've been here for a long time and you've come to me through food to get healthy recipes and food and meal plans. But I know that many of you are watching my very imperfect juggle of life on social and read my emails that I share those very things with you. And I'm just curious if you are struggling with the following things too. And so I just asked them. And of course, they replied and I got very specific struggles and that I said, you know what? I am in the right direction. My idea is that we're really all more alike than we think. And I said to them, okay, so the pivot, it hasn't been like, oh, I got to do something else. It was more like, I'm already doing these tiny things. And why don't I just ask them if this is something that they would be more interested in learning more of how I do it. It's not the perfect way of doing it, but in sharing how I have come here, maybe I can be the person for them that encourages them to discover what they need, to discover how to do something, how to, like we said, live a more fulfilling life. And as an eight, right, I'm a leader, but I'm a really good coach. And so I don't want to get lost in the nitty gritty of the emotions of things. I just want to say, hey, I want to meet you where you are, and let's go together and let's start today.
I know. So you come up though with this idea of broadening what you're offering or targeting moms in a different way, slightly different way. It's definitely a pivot, but the focus being on serving the mom, not just helping the mom serve the family.
Correct.
So how did you start to test this with so you surveyed them? Simple on your email, you just literally wrote, what do you think of this? Did you give them some sort of poll to fill out or anything? How did you do this?
So I just emailed them saying, this is what I've been thinking about. And so there is a poll coming that is actually coming out next week's email. But I said, I am hosting a webinar on this topic.
And what was the topic?
The topic was how to balance motherhood and healthy lifestyle. So it's the juggle of being a mom and wanting to live a healthy lifestyle.
Got it.
And then I said, in the webinar, I'm going to teach you the 4 things you need to focus on. If you focus on those very 4 things, the rest of the details of life are going to follow. Okay. So, and guess what? People came. I was that's sort of the, launch before you're ready kind of situation. I just said, you know what, let me put together this slide deck webinar on, so I can provide visuals, I can be organized. And then people came, and they weren't there just for the food piece. They were there for the other elements, because in my webinar I was able to do live surveying, or polls. So I was able to get real timely feedback based on what I was sharing and discussing. And I realized through the webinars that the biggest piece is mindset.
Interesting.
So the thing that's holding us back to live a healthier lifestyle as moms is what we hear in our head between the two, like right here, right? It's like, oh, someone else is cooking healthier meals. Someone else is at the park. Like, who cares? And as you said earlier, like, I don't really care what people are doing with their own life, because I'm not living their life. So I want to, I realized that this is a real problem, right? And there is no magic pill to prioritizing things. It's really about, the realization of, where am I today, and what is the thing that I can tackle, that out of what's happening, what is the thing that I can tackle first that I could accomplish quickest, or how can I get a small win first?
I love that.
Right?
I love that. So did you do multiple webinars? Did you sell anything in the webinar? Was it just to collect email addresses? Was it proof of concept?
So it was really just proof of concept. I launched it to my list. I did not promote this on social media at all, because I feel like a lot of my social media following is from social media. For me, is like window shopping. So my list, the people that actually came are your, 1,000 big, like your true fans. And those people have either purchased something from me in the past. I know because I can check the list and who came. And I did sell in the webinar one of the food pieces. So I said, basically, these are the 4 areas. I taught them about through the 4 areas. And if you want help today, the one thing I can offer my help with today is the food piece. Like, I can take the overwhelm of meal making off your plate, which it wasn't anything new that I'm selling. Like, they already know that I have this, they already hear me from my list, like, talk about the program. Some people there already own the program. They came anyway. So it wasn't, the goal was not to sell, but it was much more of proof of concept and live feedback. And I'm kicking myself because I should have done this so long ago. And I didn't do it because I was intimidated by the whole figuring out the webinar tech part. I'm someone that hates like the tech side of things and the figuring out. And that really was what held me back. And I said, oh my gosh, I cannot believe. And I had a great time on the webinar. Why? Because I am that eight. I'm like, I enjoy teaching. I enjoy leading. I enjoy, just like I do in video filming. That is my favorite part of my job. And I'm like, oh, I said to myself, I have been depriving myself the joy of leading these women in my community who have been waiting for me to do this for 10 years, many of them. Like I have amazing emails from those webinars.
How did you figure out then the webinar software? Like what did you do? Did you Google webinar software?
So I delegated that to somebody in my team.
Great.
So I said, hey, this is what we're going to do. And
go find it.
Let's figure it out. And she's like, I'll figure it, because that's her role. So like Paula figured it out and I'm like, okay, great. And then we tested it without an audience. We figured out all the tech kinks and now I'm like, all right. So, and the first webinar, guys, like my audio was coming in and out. I mean, there was no amount of deodorant that I could have put on that would have saved me. I mean, I was dripping through my shirt. I was like, I couldn't figure out the internet situation, the audio situation. And my audience was like still with me 50 minutes. And so I love data, right? So an idea is great, but what does the data really say? And, say that 100 people started in the beginning, 50 minutes in, when quote, the selling part, we've all attended a webinar where like they teach you all this stuff and then they get to the quote selling part and like whoop, everyone drops like fly. And I think statistically it's like 50% of the audience drops when you start quote selling. My people were still there. 2 people left. I'm like, and I was quote doing the selling and there were people in there in the chat saying, oh my gosh, I own this program. This is amazing. I can't believe you spend 50, like people are like, I can't believe you spent 50 minutes sharing so much impactful thing for just that. And I'm thinking just that. I'm like, this is like the first step to me helping you. But again, it was a lot of proof of concept.
This is the end of the first half of my interview with Laura, and I hope it's inspiring you to just get out there and try stuff and make it messy and be uncomfortable, but see what you learn. David and I are in the process of building out a payment platform that we're super excited about, and we're flying by the seat of our pants and we're testing stuff, and I can't wait to share more of it with you. But this is how you build new things. It's not pretty, but it's exciting. And now that we're at the end of the episode, don't forget to get the Blogger Secrets cheat sheet. Head to milotree.com/secrets. And while you're at it, check out the WordPress course, milotree.com/WordPress. And I'll see you here again next week.